Please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with humbled, grateful hearts. We ask for your guidance and wisdom in all that we do. We ask for clarity and unity as we discuss matters that impact our students, staff, families, and community. May our decisions reflect compassion and understanding, and may we always continue to put the best interests of our students first. Help us to listen to one another, to respect each other, and to work together for the betterment of our schools. Grant us the strength to face challenges with courage and the humility to learn from our experiences. We thank you for the opportunity to serve our community and for the dedication of all those involved in education everywhere. In your name we pray, amen. Good evening, and welcome to the September 22nd Dorchester District 2 Board of Trustees meeting. At this time, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda and meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, seconded by Mr. Lee. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right, the next item on our agenda this evening are district highlights. Yes, and I believe we've got Ms. Kelly Bates to kick us off with that.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm so excited to be able to come down here and introduce our new guest for today and our visitors that are with us. It was a pleasure to nominate Mr. Frankie Staropoli for the SCSBA Champion for Public Education Award. And so I wanted to share a little bit about him before I invite up our guests. So when I first heard about this recognition through SCSBA, I immediately thought of Frankie Staropoli and the Beacons Mentoring Program. It was an honor to be able to put his name forward, and it's an even greater privilege to introduce him tonight. The first time I heard about Beacons was when I was working as a substitute in the front office of Alston Bailey Elementary, the very school where it began. Even then, I could tell this program was something special. Since that time, I had the privilege of watching the Beacons grow from a small mentorship program for boys to the addition of leading ladies and bringing those same guidance and support to our girls. From there, the program expanded into middle and high schools, now even reaching another school district. What makes Beacons so powerful is it not only provides support and accountability in the academic realm, but it also offers guidance in all areas of life. The mentors give their time to walk alongside students, offering encouragement, life skills, emotional support, and confidence that carries far beyond the classroom. It's a program built on the belief that every student deserves guidance and positive role models, and the impact is evident in the lives of so many students. Through Frankie's vision and dedication, what started as a grassroots effort has become a movement that strengthens not only students, but our entire school community. That's why I'm so excited that Frankie has been selected for this recognition. And tonight, we are honored to have some very special guests with us from the South Carolina School Boards Association to share even more and present Frankie with his award. Here with us, we have the SCSBA President Charles Govan. You would like to stand and come up, you may. Mr. Govan has served in nearly every leadership capacity with the association, including president-elect, secretary, treasurer, and the regional director for over the past 13 years. He's also served on the SCSBA Insurance Trust Board and now is in his 24th year of serving in his local board in Darlington. And then joining him, we have Region 1 Director Carlton Dallas, who represents Beaufort, Colleton, and Dorchester County School Districts. So please join me in welcoming them both.
Good evening. They gave me a script and told me I was supposed to read all this. But given the fact that she just gave you a short introduction, I'm not going to belong you or bore you with all of this dissertation. However, to the Dorchester School District 2 Board Chair, Ms. Memberly, members of the Dorchester 2 Board, and Superintendent Daugherty, thank you for the opportunity to make a special award presentation on behalf of the South Carolina School Boards Association. It is a pleasure for me to visit your district tonight, especially to make a presentation like the one with which I am about to make to my friend and along with my friend and my regional director, who is here with us tonight, Mr. Dallas. At this time, we have already gotten you all to come down, so I can skip that. We are recognizing, as she mentioned earlier, Frankie and the Beacons Mentoring Program, which are also joined. Do you have some others that want to come up, or just you? Just you, Frankie? Okay. First, we say thank you. Thank you for your wonderful collaboration with the Dorchester School 2. This is a partnership which displays your dedication and commitment to the success of public school children. The link between you and the school district serves as a model for other school districts in our state, and is why South Carolina School Boards Association is proud to recognize and honor you with the Champion for Public Education Award. SBCA presents the Champion for Education Public Education Award to businesses, nonprofit organizations, and individuals who make a significant contribution in support of public education. You have received this nomination because of your tremendous support to this district. We want you all to know that your hard work does not go unnoticed. Now let me tell you a little about the program for which you're getting the award with the partnership. Frankie and the Beacon Mentoring Program merit state recognition for their transformation and sustained contribution to public education in Dorchester, too. What began as a small male mentoring initiative at a single elementary school has expanded under Frankie's leadership into a comprehensive district-wide mentoring network, which now serves boys and girls across all grade levels. By cultivating strong community partnerships and recruiting dedicated volunteers, Frankie has built a scalable model which delivers academic support, emotional guidance, and life skills for students most in need. This initiative has not only enhanced student outcomes, but also strengthened the fabric of the school community, embodying the values of leadership, advocacy, and inspirational at the heart of public education. Frank has demonstrated an exceptional leadership by founding and expanding Beacon's mandatory programs, initially a male operation. The Beacon Mentoring Program directly supports students identified as needing additional academic and emotional support, helping them succeed both inside and outside the classroom. By providing consistent mentoring, the program boosts students' confidence, resistance, and future outlooks. Frankie exemplifies the role of a public education champion by fostering a culture of mentorship and community responsibility. The program inspires local volunteers to take active roles in schools, reinforcing public support for education. The partnership between Frankie Beacon Monitoring Program and the district is paramount to the vision of all concerned. It should be evidence to all why we recognize him tonight. The South Carolina School Board Association acknowledges and appreciates your efforts. Thank you for being a true champion for public education, and congratulations.
Yes, and that concludes our district highlights. So the next item on our agenda this evening are our board committee reports, and we will begin with our policy committee. Ms. Bates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just pulling it up real quick. All right. So we had a policy meeting right before this meeting, so we will have some policies coming next board meeting for first reading, and then today we have several for second reading, and they are as follows. BE, board meetings. BEA, live streaming of board meetings, and that's a new policy. GCLE, unencumbered time. JJE, student fund raising activities. JJER, student fund raising activities. And JJF, student activities funds. And JJFR, student activities funds. Again, these are all for second reading, so I will turn them over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Bates. As these are coming out of committee, we will not need a second, so at this time, I would ask if there are any questions or discussion. All right.
Apologies, I do have a quick question. On the, and I apologize because I have not been able to make the policy meetings. On the live streaming policy, is that, it references South Carolina 59-1985. I don't see that on the books anywhere. Is that just a, do we know if that's a typo? Did they? Yeah, I don't think it's been codified yet. Is it already signed? I mean, it's in, okay. Yeah, they just haven't updated the website, so that's why I was confused.
Probably.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right. At this time, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right, next, under our board committees, we have our finance committee. Mr. Guthrie,
Nothing to report tonight. And I don't know if Mr. Lee has anything that he wants to report on.
Mr. Lee.
All right, perfect.
All right, next we have facilities. Mr. Farnsworth.
I know we'll be hearing about facility. I will say we have a lot of really good facility stuff happening. I will tell everyone here, I've had some conversations with town and county officials as far as some funding potential options that we're looking at as a district. So good conversations there. Hopefully everybody sees our upcoming meeting dates and can join us for those meetings. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. Okay, the next item on our agenda is our public comments on agenda items, and we do not have any this evening. Next up, we have our board chairs report, and I want to just remind everyone we have our town hall meeting coming up very soon. So that is next month, October 24th. This one is at Somerville High School. And we also have the Chamber of Commerce sponsored legislative luncheon. So I believe that you all should have received information about that. If you are interested in registering, just let Wanda know and she will take care of that for you. And then I also have the upcoming conferences. I believe most of you have reached out about those. So if you have any questions, though, in registration is still open. So, all right. And if there are no further questions regarding any of those things, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is our superintendent's report. And so I will turn it over to Mr. Doherty.
Thank you, Dr. Wimberly, and the rest of the board members. We have several items this evening that we'll discuss, and the first one is a special services update, and our interim executive director is Ms. Michelle Jakes, and she is going to talk a little bit about special services and an update where we're at with that, and so appreciate her coming this evening to give you kind of where we're at with some of the programming that we're doing and some of the changes that we've had. So, Mrs.
Yes.
Jakes, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Board Chair Dr. Wimberly, board members, and Superintendent Doherty. It's such an honor to be here tonight to highlight some happenings in the Office of Special Services. I wanted to start with just talking about 4K inclusion and student outcomes. I think you got a little bit of that in our convocation as our District Teacher of the Year, Stephanie Satterfield talked about it being the most magical classroom in our district. So we have programs at Beach Hill, Span Elementary, and then also Eagle Nest Elementary. So we're super proud of that work. Also, organizational response to behavior. We have a very gifted, I would say brilliant group of board certified behavior analysts and board certified assistant behavior analysts and ABA therapists who work with our students who have behavior challenges. They actually increased their scope of work last year as they provided some trainings to our kindergarten teaching assistants. And they also have agreed that their work is much needed this year in supporting students not only in special education classrooms and programs, but also in general education. So their support has just been instrumental as we work with students who have behavior challenges. BREW, our Behavior Regulation and Emotional Wellness Program, that's at Fort Dorchester Elementary. They're still going strong. In fact, they presented this past summer at SCASA, and we had a lot of interest from other districts in knowing more about what they're doing and what those student outcomes look like. So we're very proud of them. We've developed a quadrant system to ensure that all of our special education programs are represented in the quadrant closest to the student's home school. So if you look at the next slide, it just represents each school that's in one of the 4 quadrants. And so this work will be utilized moving forward so that we can ensure all of our special education program is represented in each of those quadrants. And as we plan for growth in the district and build additional schools, we also plan accordingly to make sure, once again, that all of our special education programming is represented in each of those quadrants so that students can attend a school that is closest to home. Okay. We also held our inaugural, our first Empowering Our Community for Students Who Learn Differently conference this last spring. It was held at Ashley Ridge High School on May the 17th. where our keynote speakers, Raphael and Serena James, presented a very heartfelt personal message and challenge to all of us who were there, and then parents and teachers were able to attend professional development sessions to learn more about topics that are applicable to them as parents or teachers. We also had 2 of our members of our Preschool Continuum Task Force present at 2 state-level conferences. So once again, we're proud of that work. And then this past summer, we completed a paraprofessional handbook so that all of our paraprofessionals in the district, whether it be a teaching assistant or a full-time adult support, have knowledge of what the expectations are and ways they can support our students in our special education programs. And then we've also established a professional development plan for those persons. So they have their own training this school year so that we can target things that they can do. Once again, strategies they can put in their toolbox as they support our students. And then probably the most recent thing that we've developed, which we're proud of, is something called Look Fors. We established an observation tool that school administrators and support staff can use as they go into our special education programs. It not only highlights things that you should see as part of like tier 1, like support, something you should see in all classrooms, but also what the curriculum piece looks like, and then what some of the behavior support should look like, including things like sensory tools and things like that. So we're really proud of that work. We've already had some feedback from administrators who've said as they've gone into classrooms, they now know what to look for and what kinds of things to listen out for in terms of like curriculum and instruction. So we feel like that's great. We're going to use those tools through the first semester and then get feedback to see if we need to fine tune them so that we can eventually get them added to Classroom Mosaic. We've already established goals for our department. The first goal is in regards to staff retention in our communication and readiness programs. Those are our low incidence classrooms for students with autism spectrum disorder. Just identifying that a lot of teachers didn't return this year. And so ways that we can support those teachers, going in, completing observations, utilizing our Look For tool, giving them some short-term goals they can work on to help the classrooms run more smoothly, and then also a component to help administrators know, once again, what to look for. So when we're in there working with those teachers, giving feedback to administrators so they can also support their teachers between that visit and when we return. We've also set a goal for a development and monitoring of additional educational assistance request system. So that means once IEP teams determine that additional educational assistance is needed for a student, which means additional supervision, adult supervision, either for medical or behavioral reasons, we want to ensure that we are tracking that request and we are documenting reasons why the request is being made, so we can hopefully start to prepare trainings for teachers moving forward. Because we're hoping that on the front end of that request is supports being put in place, right? Because we're always about least restrictive environment, and we know that those adult supports is what we're calling them now. We know that that can sometimes impair or impact the students' participation in their classrooms. So we want to make that recommendation after we put some good supports in place and they haven't been determined effective. Okay. We're also continuing to work on reducing our suspension and expulsion rates for special education students who've been identified as African American. And then we also want to continue to work on our IEP development and compliance so that we continue to develop compliant IEPs and meet our timelines. As you know, everything in special education is about timelines. So we want to ensure that we're continuing to follow those timelines and meet them. Just a couple of updates. I know that Steve Shope presented at the last board meeting regarding some transportation updates. I wanted to kind of give you an update since. We've been working on an electronic way that teachers can submit their transportation request. So it not only documents the demographic information of the student and the reason why transportation or special transportation is needed, but it also allows them the opportunity to upload the form. And so we think that it will result in more timely routing for our students in the future. And then I also met with the Special Services Parent Liaison Group. We had our first meeting on September the 9th. And a lot of the conversation was in regards to continuing our work regarding inclusive opportunities for our students. So talking about Special Olympics, talking about unified track and those kinds of things, and other things that the district is talking about bringing that can once again increase those opportunities for our students to be with their gen ed non-disabled peers. And then we also talked about special services assisting with the development of scripts or resources to ensure consistent communication. So they shared with us that they get a lot of questions and they want to ensure that they are responding in a similar manner. So we talked about giving them information regarding our special services programming document that we established a couple of years ago that just outlines what our programming is in our district and the type instruction and the type things that are focused on in that particular program. And then we talked about giving them some information relative to the quadrants because you can imagine that they receive and field a lot of questions regarding potential moves, growth of programs, how that impacts their student, et cetera. They also are already preparing for Special Education Staff Appreciation Day that's going to be in December. And so they've asked that we start compiling those numbers of staff that are involved. So that's always exciting. I'm sure you guys are aware that they really outdid themselves last year in terms of acknowledging our special education staff. And then our next meeting will be on November the 11th, where we'll continue to discuss, I believe, some of these things that are on the slide. Any questions for me?
Yeah, not necessarily a question, but I do want to really just say thank you and Ms. Jakes and your team. You know, the community that you support in special services, it really is such an amazing community. And I will tell you, in the face of some personnel challenges over the past several months, of course, you have stepped up and significantly made that transition very, very smooth. And so from my standpoint, very, very positive. And so again, just want to say thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. But I do have to say it is the team. Like, the team makes it easy because they show up and they're super smart and they're such hard workers. So I'm grateful for all of them. Thank you.
I was wondering if, before you step away, if you could kind of elaborate a little bit. This is something that I was not aware of until I saw this. The fact that we have a problem with suspension and expulsion of special ed students.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that, just for the benefit of
Yes, sir.
everyone to understand
Yes, sir.
what the challenges are?
So for years, our district was determined to be significantly discrepant on an indicator that the State Department monitors regarding the number of students who are identified as African American who are suspended beyond 10 days. So in special education, every student has 10 days, and once you go beyond that 10 days, the student then is counted as being part of that indicator. And so we have been working for many years on that, and then recently, over the last couple of years, the verbiage changed because we had been significantly discrepant for so many years. We are now considered significantly disproportionate. So it has kind of changed in that the problem is still the same, but we have now had to get support from other kinds of agencies. For example, we are now collaborating with BASC, which is Behavioral Alliance of South Carolina, and they are working with our team at the district level to identify ways that we can support our MTSS framework, so ways that we can improve and strengthen our Tier 1 supports for students so that they're all getting behavioral instruction, that we are reinforcing pro-social behavior, we're issuing consequences when needed, right? With the idea that as strong as your Tier 1 system is, it will have like an effect on the students who have demonstrated problematic behavior. We know that we can't just focus on the students that are rising to the top, right? We have to also ensure that we have a very strong tier in place for all students. So that's something that has changed recently in our work.
And I know you're new to this role and whatnot, so you may or may not have the details on this, but so from what I'm hearing you say, this has been a historical problem within our district, and past efforts haven't resulted in the outcomes that we want. So, and now apparently we're even further down on the list according to the indicators and whatnot. Are you getting everything that you need in order to make this a focus that, you know, I would prefer that, as with all of South Carolina, but with DD2, we were top in the list of things that we want to be in the top of, and bottom of the list of the things you don't want to be, instead of the inverse of that, which is often the case. So are you getting the supports? Are you getting the things that you need to be able to address this?
I would say yes. The district is, I feel like we are at a great point in our history of where all of the arrows are pointing in the right direction, for lack of a better word, right? So district leadership is aware, which includes cabinet. We have a district MTSS team. And so once again, I feel like even though I'm at special services and we're monitoring it because it's an indicator that the State Department monitors, I feel like the district as a whole and district leadership is very aware and supportive of the things that we need to change. Anything else?
And also, I would just like to echo a little bit what Mr. Lee was saying, but also, Michelle, I think the big thing is you're going into schools now on our school visits. You're actually going into every classroom. And I think when you're talking about the disproportionate discrepancies with those suspensions, with our new our MTSS program that we have, that all of our principals in our buildings are actually using. And so that's able to track behavior and also puts interventions in place so students don't get to that 10th day. Right. So we're putting those interventions in. So I know that's been a big help. I know Mr. Manser in Title I has worked really well,
Right.
worked hard with special
And
services.
I will say too, I will add that part of BASC, we had to have schools work alongside us. So Fort Dorchester High School, River Oaks Middle School, and Eagle Nest Elementary are schools that are also part of the partnership. So they are completing surveys. They're participating in the trainings that the State Department or that BASC is providing, and then they are hopefully going to be model schools that we can then, share what they're doing, so that other schools can have those results that they hopefully will have.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. I think we're collecting a lot of data, but what are we going to do with that data to drive change? And I think that's what her and her team are trying to do, especially when you're looking at those interventions with the MTSS program that we've now adopted for all schools are using it. We just had a few using it last year. Now everybody's using it, the same program, and now they're looking, it has interventions in there. So if I'm doing an intervention, an intervention should take place 4 times a week for 4 weeks to see if that intervention is actually working. If it's not, then we're going to change and go a different direction. So that's the whole point about those interventions. And so I do appreciate you and your team and what you're doing. And the quadrants are huge for us. And I know Dr. Wilson's been a big part of that with special services, working on trying to make sure those quadrants are in place. So we have students that aren't traveling clear from the north all the way to the south of the district. And so that creates a huge issue when you're talking about travel time on buses. And so the team is committed to trying to make sure all those programs are in each one of those quadrants. So it's very important for us to be able to do that. So I know we're not there yet. Again, that takes resources, and resources takes a little extra money and to make sure, but we are going to get there slowly but surely. But again, trying to make sure we maximize spaces in our buildings so we can offer those programs in each one of those quadrants. So I appreciate you guys doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have up is our calendar considerations. And tonight, this is for information only. And Mrs. Jennifer Passmore and Jennifer Bates, the principal at Eugene Sires, will be here this evening. And they've kind of led the charge here on the calendar committee. And they're going to talk about what calendars kind of came through with the committee. And I'll turn it over to Jennifer and Jennifer. So thank you.
Thank you all so much. First of all, I just want to say thank you to our calendar committee. They're made up of a wide group of parents and teachers and counselors and principals, administrators, PTA representatives, and district office staff. We met on August the 20th to draft 2 recommendations for the 26-27 and the 27-28 calendars. And we met again on September the 9th after we sent those recommendations to the schools and to our PTA to get their feedback. And then we finalized those recommendations to bring to you tonight for information to be voted on later. So by South Carolina law, the school term has to be made up of 190 days, which that's made up of 10 staff days and 180 instructional days. The modified calendar is exempt from starting after the 3rd Monday in August. It allows you to start a little bit earlier. You need to have 3 days designated as makeup days, And the public school is closed on general election day in November for the even years. Some priorities from DD2 is that the first day of school happens midweek on a Wednesday or a Thursday to help with fatigue. One weather makeup day is added in the fall for those weather makeup days, which are much needed. A holiday on election day for the odd and even years. That alleviates when we have security issues when we have polling sites. So we just go ahead and put a holiday on election day for regardless of odd or even. The 5-day holiday for Thanksgiving. Second semester is completed before winter break. A staff day upon return from winter break, and that allows us to do a facilities check without students being in the building. Spring break is tied to Easter. Aligned spring break with surrounding districts when possible. And our last day of school happens before Memorial Day. So when we sent out our drafts to the schools and PTA for their feedback, these were some of the top items that got a lot of mentions, and that was that the staff start day, could please consider the staff starting in August rather than in July. In by Memorial Day, keep fall break, the spring break tied to Easter, and that they light the calendars that were presented. And at this time, I'd like Ms. Bates to give a little more perspective from the calendar committee.
Good evening. So this was my first time in my 28 years in this district being on the calendar committee, so it was kind of exciting to be part of the process. And we did have a variety of perspective in the process. And when we met the first time, I think the work that had been done in previous years really kind of like had us moving in the right direction of the things that we know that we like. And when we came to the table, we had 2 proposed calendars that we looked at, and we had quite a long discussion that first time we met. And this year, starting in July versus August, we actually took it back one day. I think when we looked at the calendar, we were starting on a Thursday, but we looked at going back to that Wednesday start, which we had this past year, because it really does help us with fatigue, but also we just felt like those years that we started on a Monday were just really long weeks for the kids to learn the routine, and if we started on a Wednesday or Thursday, but we did like the Wednesday start. What we also found is through our conversation is if we started on Thursday, that we would not, the teachers would have to come back, I believe it was the Monday after Memorial Day for like the teacher work day, and to be honest with you, nobody really likes that idea. So we talked a lot about moving it back to Wednesday, so we did. And so with us starting on that Wednesday in July, I think it's the last Wednesday in July, we're able to get the teachers, the students, and the teachers out completely before they start their Memorial Day weekend. The other conversation that we had was, when we took it back to the staff, my staff at elementary just loves the fall break. Even as a principal, like we work all summer. Like right now, I'm feeling that dip in September than you normally feel as a teacher in October. So we all like to have that fall break to look forward to, and I don't think anybody wanted to give that up. But also, when we looked at it, if we went back in August, we would have to give up the fall break. And we also were going to have to take 2 days from the winter break, and we did that a couple years ago. And what it looked like is we didn't have that half day on that Friday, and we went into that next week, which I believe Christmas, just for example, I think Christmas this year is like on a Friday. So we would get out like the Tuesday before Christmas. Teachers are not going to come that week. We're going to have a subs shortage, and kids aren't going to come to school, so we're going to have an attendance issue. So as we went back and forth, we felt like starting on that July Wednesday date would give us what we need for that first semester. We really like approving 2 calendars going into hopefully this year because we can plan, families can go ahead and plan those long trips and things like that. And then we're kind of hoping that the surrounding districts might also be able to like get on board with us. I think they said going into next year, one of the counties is already kind of getting in line with us. My sister-in-law is in Charleston County and her children are in DD2. And so as much as I'm trying to get her to come over to DD2, she's been in her district for several years, and she said that she just wishes that the breaks would more align. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe that'll help us get more aligned as districts. After we went back and looked at all the recommendations, as a group, we all came up with that we felt that these calendars that we're presenting tonight would be our best options. And the other thing that was unique to the calendar perspective this time, and it was one of the things that I know I recommended, when she shows you the calendar, we decided that what happens is that we have to use all of our weather days. If it's a teacher work day / weather day, in the past few years, I think we have used all those days, so the teachers don't get their work days. So when you look at the second semester and you look at, I think it's the March date when Jennifer goes over that part, it was the March one, and then there's one the following year. We put in just a weather day. Definitely one of the years we looked at, because the way that Easter runs, this past year, I think Easter was a little bit earlier. That time from after spring break to all the way to the end of May is a long haul, I think, for any level. And so we threw in a weather makeup day that was not connected, and we feel like if we don't need that as a weather makeup day, that would just be a long 3-day weekend for kids and staff to have a break. So that was something unique that we threw out this year, so we're hoping that that will be considered as we look at the considerations. So, but thank you for listening. We feel like we've brought you 2 great recommendations for the next 2 years.
Thank you, Jennifer. And then Jennifer's going to talk a little bit about the calendar. You guys can see here where the starts are. And Jennifer, you want to talk a little bit more about the 26-27 calendar?
So the recommendation from the calendar committee for 26-27 would be for the staff to come back the last 3 days in July and also the first couple of days there that you see in August with a start date on the 5th of August. You see that in October we have the fall break, which is 7, 8, and 9 in yellow. October the 12th is a weather makeup day. That was that please put a weather makeup day in the fall. November has our week-long holiday at Thanksgiving. December in yellow, again, has our traditional winter break. And then in January, we have on the 4th, which is the green staff day. That is not a weather makeup day. That is just a staff day, so we can do that facilities check when we come back from that long break. February the 12th is a weather day. March 28th is Easter. So people like it when Easter break falls after Easter, and this calendar lends itself to that. So the spring break would be March 29th through 31st and April 1 through 2. And Jennifer was talking about April the 23rd. It's hard to see up on there, but that is a designated weather makeup day. So that if we don't use those, then it would be a nice 3-day weekend late in April to kind of hold us over until May. And as you can see, the yellow for May 31st is Memorial Day, and we wrap everything up before then.
Now, I appreciate you guys putting all this work in. One thing to point out to the board is that first semester there and why we have to start right there in August, because a lot of times we get questions about can we start back later. If we started later, we would have to push the first semester for your high school students. After Christmas, they take their final exams. And that is not a good thing for high school kids to come after a Christmas break and then take final exams. So exams are all taken, everything's buttoned up before they go to break, and they have a real break. And so that's why you see, we're starting on that Wednesday again, kind of what Jennifer were talking about. So I appreciate all the time and effort you put in. So questions for the board? This is for information only tonight. So any questions that you may have for any of us?
Do you guys have a timeline on when you would like us to vote on these?
Yes, we'll bring it back to the next board meeting in October.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions? Did you want to do it? Yeah, I'm getting ready. So then the 27-28 calendar is fairly similar to the 26-27 calendar. Again, the last 3 days in July, staff would come back, and the 2nd and 3rd, and start date on the 4th of August. In October, we have our fall break, 6, 7, and 8. October the 11th is a weather makeup day, to have that fall weather makeup day. Our week at Thanksgiving in November in yellow, are basically 2 weeks in December for winter break. Coming back in January on the 3rd as a staff day, so no students, so that we can do that facilities check. In February, that is the 18th, the green spot in February is a staff day and a weather makeup day. And in March, it's hard to see up there, but March the 10th is that standalone weather makeup day, in hopes of making that a long weekend. In April, Easter is late. It's April the 16th. So we usually like to put Easter after, we usually like to put spring break after Easter, but with it being so late, we put it the 10th through the 14th. And I failed to mention on the previous calendar, the 26-27 calendar, our spring break is in alignment with Berkeley and Charleston. We don't know about DD4 yet. And on this calendar, we only know Berkeley County said at this point in time, that's the same time that they have their spring break as well. So we were not able to get that information. It wasn't available yet for Charleston County or DD4 for spring break. So the more that we tie it to Easter, I think that's what our surrounding districts do. It's going to be a lot easier for us to get in alignment with them. And then May 29th, Memorial Day, we get everything wrapped up before Memorial Day. Any questions?
Thank you for all your thoughtfulness of putting the information. I know it's a lot to get everybody together to give input on these calendars, but it sounds like you got a lot of input from a lot of different people, and so we really do appreciate what you've put together. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our next person coming up here to talk to us is Mr. Jay Lombardo from the Citizens Advisory Review Team that works with the district involving our referendum. So, Mr. Lombardo.
Thank you, Dr. Wembley, board members, Superintendent Downey. Before we go, I wanted to say something. We identified an individual today that did something great with the Beacons. I also want to say he left. Is that Frankie is also a member of the Italian Festival board member, and we're all very happy always to do something with the Educational Foundation. Okay, so today we had our CART meeting on the 17th of September, and we went over 77 major projects with the current schools. 58 of them are in work or completed. However, safety and security would have been 100%, but we dropped it down to 85% due to the addition of door alarms to be added. And it's kind of interesting today is, as a parent of a teacher in a different school district, finding out that individual went to school today in a middle school with a loaded gun really, really catches it hard here. So safety and security for our kids is paramount. So it might be something we want to look into with our metal detectors throughout the district. We have 15 awaiting starts. 2 of them are slightly behind. That was due to weather issues. And 1 well behind, which is the ponds. And we'll discuss that here shortly. Approximately $41 million, or 22% of the referendum money, have been spent or encumbered. And we have, what we had mentioned, our 2 major areas, which are the new schools. The pond land conveyance is a serious concern. The CART views that shovels need to be in the ground by January 2026, if it's at all possible, so we can meet the August 2027 date for school. Just after looking at the calendar, we really need to be looking at that hard. So once again, I encourage the community to contact your elected officials to try and work this out. We are very concerned about that. Also, we found out recently that there's a wetlands issue at the Yerby track, and it's a major concern. And we're asking the board to possibly look at alternative plans, should it be necessary, to meet the 35 classroom requirements with the expansion of our students. The CART again has requested that we look at all aspects of the projects. I'm going to stop there. Like I said, I was a little concerned about that safety issue, and I just wanted to say that we appreciate what's going on with the facilities team, headed by Tony Sorrell. Thank board member Farnsworth as a facility team leader for us, and we look forward to our next CART meeting, which will be on December 17th. December 10th, and that's really all I have. Do you have any questions for me?
Quick question, and Jay, thank you first and foremost. I know I always say thank you to everybody, but seriously, what the CART does is meaningful and impactful for the district. One question I had, and I certainly hate to ask for potentially more work from the CART, but I think in light of the issues that you're talking about here, when you guys meet, would it be possible to draft up some sort of, we'll say, official memorandum or letter, whatever you want to call it, back to the board? Because that gives us, we'll call it ammunition, when we go out to the other entities looking at some of the stuff you're talking about. Mm-hmm. When we have that officially from you guys, that makes a big difference.
Okay, I'll bring that up as an agenda item.
Love it. Thank you.
And I'd just like to thank Mr. Lombardo. It was a great discussion our last meeting. Again, we appreciate your team and thoughtfulness and dialogue. So we appreciate your willingness to work with us. And so trying to find avenues and trying to find solutions to these two properties. So thank you.
Okay. If not, thank you very much.
Okay, our next person up is Mrs. Meunier, talk about our finance. And so, Ms. Meunier.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, and Mr. Doherty. This evening, our finance team has prepared for you the August 2025 financial information. First thing that we'd like to go over is the general fund cash flow analysis. Again, we'll start from the left side, and every month that we go through as our actuals, we'll turn the color from blue, which is our projections, to the actuals in the black ink. So we're 2 months into the new fiscal year. We did update our beginning balance in July, where I do indicate that as the green number to 66 million, where we were at 64.7 million. When we were working through our year-end adjusting entries, we were able to show some additional savings that we had in the prior year, so we were able to recognize some more fund balance moving into this new year, so that was good news. Our auditors just started this week, so we are working on 2 intense weeks with them here in the office, and then they will be doing more work remotely, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you the final report in November. Nothing too exciting on our cash flow analysis so far. The month of August looks a little different than July, whereas we were recording revenues that we had received in July back to the prior year, also for our expenditures. So July looks a little off looks a little different than August, where we appeared to have an $8.2 million gain for the month. And in August, we had $11.7 million deficit. That's because our revenues, again, as I've shared with y'all, the revenues come in at a not consistent rate, and our expenditures as well. They flow through differently during the month. Some months are higher and some are lower. And that's why it's always important to keep a good fund balance. You can see there where we have a 20.98% fund balance at the bottom of the August column. So we're still doing well. We still have enough money to pay our bills, so we're doing well with our cash flow. The next reports are the balance sheet. We show our August 2025 versus August 2024. Our total assets for the month of August are $71,699,549. I will say that the numbers look a little different on the total assets on the due from other funds this year as last year. We had working on our capital projects, and we made some of our transfers for expenditures in August. We made those in September, so there's a month lag behind there. That's why that looks a little different, but we're still right on track. Liabilities and fund balance equal the same amount. And I indicated on the fund balance for the beginning of the year, I showed that in red, where I was showing that the adjustments from last year, as I pointed out on the other cash flow analysis. So for our revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, we're working again budget to actual. Our ideal remaining percentage is at 83%, which means that at this time of the year, if you're doing 9% and 9% or 8%, then you will have already received 83% of your 17% of your revenues. You'll have remaining 83%. So when you look at our percentages, you can see where our revenues, we are at 90%, and expenditures are at 89%. So that's right in line with last year. We're on target for doing well for this year. Again, it looks like we had a negative in our change in fund balance, but again, it's because of the timing of when we receive our revenues and expenditures. So nothing too exciting for our first 2 months of the year, but any questions for me? Okay, thank you all very much.
And that concludes our superintendent's report, except for student enrollment recommendations and our personnel report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Doherty. Board members, we did receive the student enrollment recommendations in our packet. Is everyone okay with proceeding in open session? All right, and at this time, I would ask for a motion to approve the student enrollment request as presented.
So moved.
All right, motion made by Mr. Lee. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Farnsworth. Any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right, and board members, we also received the personnel report in our packet. Is everyone okay with proceeding in open session? All right, then at this time, I'd ask for a motion to accept the personnel recommendations as presented. Motion made by Ms. King. Seconded by Mr. Guthrie. Any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right, thank you very much. Next item on our agenda are our public comments. First one this evening is Mr. Jason Brockert.
Good evening. In the next 179 seconds, I'll attempt to summarize a decade of our family's experience with this district so that you can understand the offer that I'm extending tonight. So for years, we've been your partners. We've volunteered in your libraries. We've helped open new schools. I've stood at this podium advocating for transparency, supporting teachers, navigating the pandemic with you, alongside you, fighting for our children for years. We placed our faith in this system. A few years ago, I was almost sitting up there with y'all. Then the bullying began, and we came to you through every proper channel. I stood here in 2022 and detailed the systemic failures that we were seeing. Then in 2024, I warned you in painstaking detail. about the targeted cyberbullying campaign against our son. And we told you the danger that was in the school. And we were met with silence. Even after we lost Julian, our requests for partnership have continued, and we even offered an option of atonement. We asked for a simple vigil to acknowledge the youth suicide crisis. We have been met with silence. We organized a community rally during National Suicide Prevention Month, and I personally invited every one of you, everyone in the district, and even a counselor from every school in the district, and you responded with a deafening silence. None of you were there. And yet, your silence isn't universal. It was broken the very next day after our event by a member of this board at a vigil hosted by a political party. This isn't an oversight. Over years, 3 superintendents, 3 different school boards. This is institutional silence. I'd really like to know what Joe Pye thinks about this. But tonight, I'm offering you another opportunity to break this silence. October is National Bullying Prevention Month, and I'm offering to host a Unity Day event. 1 month from today, October 22nd, is Pacers Unity Day. I'm offering to help coordinate and provide materials for that. So I'm giving you this offer tonight. Table. And we can just do more silence, or you can help me break the silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rockert. All right, and next we have Mr. Tommy Fagan.
Good evening, all. Just a canary in the coal mine again. I'd like to read you first reading that went off at the last county council chamber. First reading of an ordinance adopting incentives to encourage the development of workforce housing units in Dorchester County. And they keep talking about the teachers. The teachers. We got to do this for the teachers. Now, these incentives, number one, if they give tax breaks to these developers, this is coming out of the commercial pot, which supports totally our operations, our school operations. 388 runs strong in all of this. All right, now, what are they going to do with the teachers? Because they're talking about subsidizing up to 60. They had a scale for, you know, and it hadn't all been worked out, so you can't get any definite anything from them, but as much as 60% of their housing will be subsidized by the county. Now, are you going to issue 1099s? Will that be on the W-2s? How will that figure in with 388? There's so many questions with this. And also, they're talking about a partnership with the developers, the selected developers that's going to develop this. Now, they're going to tell you where you have to live, who your neighbors are going to be, your coworkers in Dorchester County. And I'm sure there'll be security on these apartment complexes. They'll be able to tell who you're seeing, what time you leave in the morning, if you happen to run late getting to work. Being a partnership, I'm sure that the county and your employer would have access to these security tapes. So there's so many questions to be asked here. It's almost Orwellian. The county taking money and shifting it from pot to pot so that nobody can keep up with it, our county council, and our school district suffering the whole time. Instead of giving this money in the form of tax breaks and grants. Just give it to the employees and let the market decide. You're also the long-term employees that living in a house and they bought a house, they'll be relegated to second-class citizenship financially by the county because they're going to give the ones that not making so much such an advantage in their rent. You know, there's so many things to be looked at here.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fagan, excuse me, your time is up, but thank you for your comment.
Madam Chairman, I don't know if I could ask for a point of personal privilege.
Yes, Mr. Lee?
In light of recent events in the last several weeks, and in hearing from a number of people, I'd like to share some thoughts from my heart. As many of you may know, I'm a grandparent of children here in our district. I serve as a board member, represent District 7, and I'm a citizen here in DD2. Our number one priority is the education of all the children within DD2, their educational achievement to the best of their abilities, all in a safe and constructive environment. What is the role of politics in our public schools? Is there a role for politics in our elementary school classrooms? I believe not. I believe our children in the elementary schools should be focused on learning. How about in our middle schools? Perhaps from a fact basis, but I personally believe that our middle school children do not have the emotional maturity and reasoning skills to be able to debate politics as middle schoolers. What about in our high schools? Yes, I believe they should, but only from the perspective of developing critical thinking, reasoning, and debating skills. Our culture is suffering from a disease. It's illustrated by a lack of respect for life, the coarseness and disrespect in civil discourse, and the loss of genuine sense of humanity. We fail to recognize that each of us as humans have been created in the image and likeness of God. I served in this country in uniform for 32 years in the Air Force. My freedom of movement and freedom of speech were restricted because of the larger matters of good order and discipline and who it is I was working for. The same concept holds true for most in the private sector. Now, there is an absolute right in this country to the freedom of speech. As I did in uniform, I will defend that right, not only for me, but for any other American. However, know that there is no absolute right to impunity from your exercise of that right. I think clarity is important right now. And so if there is any questions where I stand on anything, let me be clear. If anyone celebrates the assassination of a political opponent or anyone with whom you disagree, you're unfit for any role of trust. Not with children, not in healthcare, not in government, not anywhere, period. We need to return to a point where we have respect as human beings and respect for the dignity of being able to have proper discourse. We should engage more. We should edify and build up rather than tearing down. We should encourage more discussion and debate, and dignify each other in the process. The events of late, not just the one that has captured the national media, but another example we heard today about a potential source of violence in our schools. I believe we are at a point, a critical point as a culture. And I would ask each and every one of you, parents, teachers, administrators, and citizens, to help us in fostering the kind of debate and discussion that we need to have as a culture, as a community, and not continue to feed into the rage of the day. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, board members, at this time, I would ask for a motion to convene into executive session for personnel-related matters.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lee, seconded by Mr. Guthrie. Any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, we will call for the vote. All right, motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. We are in executive session and we will return. I'd ask for a motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, seconded by Ms. King. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right, and board members, at this time, we do not have any action from executive session, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Ms. Bates, seconded by Ms. King. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. We are adjourned.